One of the things we can't do away with as human beings is that we are bound to have problems. We're bound to have challenges. We're bound to have obstacles. We're bound to have a lot of issues that will around the very most of us. But there is always something about the universe. That is because every human being is bound to have his or her own share of life. Every single individual is meant to go through the life phase one after the other, either sequentially or abrupted pattern. And that is why this topic is there. Today we want to actually explore something really deep about life, and that is a universal topic. That is faith, hope, and spiritual anchoring for women. This is a pathway I used to be able to get out of the situation I found myself after 7 to 8 years in marriage with two children. How I'm able to put myself back up. It wasn't easy, and I figure it is one phase of every human life, especially human beings that are actually bound to achieve more in this life. And if you don't utilize that phase of your life properly, you are going to get stuck. You're going to get trapped. And you're going to keep being delusional about what is there to actually live for. And because of that, I feel that every aspect of my success should actually be a dwelling point for me to always remember when I'm falling short of my faith, when I'm falling short of my hope, and when I keep falling short of how I can actually anchor myself spiritually. I am a human being that love the principles of life. I try to walk my path understanding how life actually works. I try to navigate my journey through the lens of universal concept. And because of that, I figure that every aspect of the religion is embedded in the universe. Every aspect of the universe is also embedded in the religion. But the primary source is to seek the divine intervention. Then you can begin to understand. In my previous video, I talked about some religious beliefs, and these beliefs is actually one of the way the universe works. If you don't have a definition for the kind of life you are living in, the life itself would give you a definition. And I can 100% guarantee that that definition the life would give you would not be good for you. So today, I'm going to be talking about the story concept. And I hope for somebody that is looking for a way to actually get herself out of the situation she's in, or she is trying to build a spiritual foundation, or she's trying to get clarity on how she can actually get past most of the things she feels is blockage for her. You can find solitude in this video. And mind you, this is primarily based on my life journey, how I'm able to get here after the divorce of 7 to 8 years of marriage and stepping out two children with the primary aim to become better, not to be a victim of my circumstance. Now let's talk about the three concepts one after the other. What is faith? Faith is just like your inner belief system. This is not paramount to what somebody is telling you, but it is divine understanding you have about how something should work, about your expectation as regards to life generally. Faith is that concept you understand that something is there, something will be done, and something is taking charge of every single aspect of my life. Now, hope, on the other hand, is your emotional resilience. That's your expectation that if I do this, I can achieve this. Or if I set my attention to this thing, this will come to light. Or if this thing happen, it will require this and it will lead to this. Hope is that expectation, that cringe we are having towards something to come to life. Either we've seen that thing come to life yet, or we are working towards to bring that into life. And spiritual anchoring is the ability to stay grounded through life storm and using spiritual notions, using that religious understanding that you expect something to come to life. By the time you look at this three, you realize that these are the three main concepts of how our life actually began to actually have a pathway. Because when we are in situation, we commonly and subconsciously make use of our faith. We make use of our hope and we also make use of our spiritual anchoring. But one thing is that sometimes we use one out of the three. Sometimes we use two out of the three. Sometimes we don't even use any. And sometimes for somebody like me, I have been able to wire and nurture myself to use the three because I figured that putting these three concepts together is how you can actually begin to turn your life around. This is for all women, regardless of the religion, and it is one way to actually start rebuilding your connection with the divine human or divine supernatural being. Because one thing I always love to remind myself is that I did not meet myself here by accident. My parents did not just nurture me. Something actually created me to come to my parents, and the generation begins to continue and continue and continue. Why am I good at something and I'm not good at something else? That is because I have my own individuality. And this my own individuality is not because I actually decided to build it, but because it has been instilled inside me by the supernatural being. So I believe there is always a way we can get a connection to that spiritual and supernatural being if we really want to have a meaningful life. Now, one thing I try to explain to myself first is that understanding spirituality as a universal lifeline. You see, spirituality is that concept that comes with you being able to communicate and get connected to the supernatural being. And there was a day I shared a short or a video about three ways to have your life turn around, and that is body away from men, that's purity, spirituality, and setting goals. Purity is a form whereby you keep yourself away from the lively connections to be able to get touch or to feel the presence of the divine being. And that is just a simple concept of spirituality, not about physical things, not about what you can actually see and hold on to in the physical realm, but the part whereby you feel that there is something within you that feels grounded, that feels connected, and feels the kind of energy that something is controlling something. And if I'm able to communicate with this thing, there is a way what I cannot see will definitely control what I can see. And it's actually the part whereby when you have a connection to something, you feel there is a strong purpose to that thing. You feel there is this long line that would actually transit into every aspect of your life. So, religion actually gives structure, spirituality gives experience. The religion gives you a kind of pathway that, okay, this is how to do things. But spirituality is how you experience what you are actually doing, the kind of sensation you get, the kind of return you feel when you eventually step into something. Spirituality is not something that is actually physical, it is something that comes from within. It is an internal procedure, it is an internal craving that feels the connection and attention that something is definitely controlling every single thing I do. And the more connected I am with that person, the easier it feels for me to understand how the process of my life actually works. So faith would actually give you direction in a manner whereby you believe that this thing will happen. So I am holding on to that thing, expecting that it will happen. And hope is what you eventually need that will give you that energy. It is not that I don't believe in this thing, but I don't have the hope. Believing is what gives you that direction, that faith that it okay, this is where I'm going. But you are going there, you don't have the hope. That hope is what gives you the energy, keeps you getting motivated to keep working. And even when you lose motivation, you keep having discipline that once I get here, I would move closer here. And even if I don't move closer there, I still have that hope that it is still possible because I believe in that direction. And there are so many instances that we women get trapped in that make us lose faith and hope. And it is not just because the life itself is not worrisome, but because we allow the confusion of this world to get to us. One thing about life is that things will keep happening over and over and over again. We're going to be having a lot of disturbance, tribulation, circumstance, worry, issues. But the more you allow these things to actually get to you, the harder it is for you to begin to see the light again at the end of the tunnel. And I'm going to be talking about few of them before we begin to learn how to actually gain spiritual anchoring. The first thing you need to understand when it comes to losing faith and hope is emotional fatigue. One thing is that we give in so much to children, we give in so much to our husband, we give in so much in our relationship, we give in so much in our career. And because of that, by the time we experience the whole of the expectations we have, on our shoulder, we have less hope to be able to hold on to the things we actually believe in. Because emotionally, we have been drained because of the attention we have given to the whole of these sections of our life. And mind you, a woman's life is actually a topic to keep talking about over and over again. It is not because you are not a woman enough, but because life itself will keep happening to you with or without your consent. And the second thing that allows we women to lose ourselves, to lose that hope and faith, is life disappointment. I can't overemphasize enough a lot of women that have taken a lot of decision out of broken dreams, heartbreak, betrayal, divorce, financial struggle, and the whole of this creates a kind of bridge and the kind of hope and expectation they have in everything they do. I was once in that situation, and I understood at that time that life would happen. But the more you keep telling yourself that a lot of good things are waiting for you, the closer you get. Because what is the life about? What is that good life about we are trying to achieve when we don't have a taste of the opposite? That life you are looking for, you need to have a taste of the opposite. And I watched this concept on one of my very famous YouTuber, that is Danko. He talked about anti-vision or anti-vision. He said, when you're trying to build your vision, you need to create an anti-vision. So that the more you keep experiencing that item vision, the stronger your willpower to achieve your vision. So I think and I'm convinced that when you experience the opposite of everything you would have wanted, that should create a more intense driving force for you to actually keep striving and working hard. So most times you don't necessarily need to dwell on your disappointment, but to use that as an anchor. And the third thing is confusion about purpose. I understand that when a life season ends, you see, most of the women feel spiritually misplaced. And I can't talk about this in a manner that I can't overemphasize on this. At a point in time when you lose a particular part of your life, either a child, relationship, career, there is a way that spiritually we feel misplaced, we feel misaligned, we feel that what is there to pursue, what is there to work on. But like I said earlier, your anti-vision should help you create a strong will to keep pursuing your vision. You see, that part of your life has actually ended for a reason. And one thing about the paradox of life is that transformation will not happen when you feel you have everything figured out. It will happen out of confusion, out of uncertainty, out of when you feel the whole life is shredding right in your front. If you don't have a taste of what the opposite of your life is, there is no way you are going to be convinced that that life you are actually looking for is really meant for you. And at the same time, we women always struggle with emotional support. And that is because when we don't have support system, it often feels like there is no spirituality left in our life. And that is coming from a lady that, probably you feel that your marriage, your relationship should be a particular angle or even your family. And you eventually turn out that you don't have that picture come to life. This is when you need to understand that the energy you carry within you is more than enough to start taking up, regardless if you have somebody holding your hand to do something or not. And lastly, feeling judged or abandoned. I understand that sometimes some of us actually think about somebody else's opinion, somebody else's perspective, probably because of your mistakes and because of the way people have said something about you cringing and holding on to the things that would not add to your growth, or people have actually, transgressed your boundaries just because of a little mistake or little flaw that they realized that you made or committed out of you holding on or hoping and expecting something to come to life. But at the same time, we don't actually lose faith because we don't believe. We lose faith because we are actually tired and we are wounded and we are overwhelmed and we don't actually know how to actually get ourselves back up again. One thing about life is that you can't actually walk your way out of doubt if you don't keep acting. You just have to keep moving. You have to keep chasing. Regardless, that is because it is your life. It is not somebody else's life. You have the life within you. So why don't you live the life like you are the main picture of the whole thing? Spiritual anchor is actually the internal force that keeps you steady, just like the notion of spirituality. When you always say to yourself that I will not break. I have this thing, this storm will pass. And that is because you pray, you meditate, you read through the scripture, you go through reflection, you say positive affirmation. Spiritual anchoring is like you having a kind of shield to protect you or to be able to keep you in check as you are trying to achieve something, or you are trying to become a better version of yourself, or maybe you are trying to get to a place and you feel that the whole of this place I'm trying to get to feels like a mountain, but at the same time, I will go through this. It is a phase, and you are able to develop the whole of this through prayer, through meditation, through reflection, through going through nature, being grateful for the time being. Practicing the whole of these have a way should I call it subconsciously or supernaturally draw you closer to the divine being. And by so doing, you realize that some of the things you feel is more like chaos begin to get even more simpler and simpler as you begin to practice them. Now, how do you actually build spiritual anchoring? And I was able to sit down and think about this based on the way I am able to keep myself grounded, especially when life begins to happen. Spiritual anchoring is not just about practicing the religion alone, it is more about the universal concept, incorporating it into the religion itself, and subtotally, everything begins to become a map. So, the first thing or the first way to actually begin to build your spiritual anchoring is for you to start practicing daily silence and reflection. When it comes to daily silence and reflection, you see, you muting the crowd will allow you to listen to yourself. Sometimes we need to allow ourselves think personally, individually, so we can understand what exactly is going on in our mind. Some of us do not give ourselves the permission to be able to think. We don't give ourselves the permission to acknowledge and understand some things that are happening in our lives. And because of that, we fall short of making crucial decisions. We end up seeking opinion, seeking approval, seeking external validation that is not even necessary. So when you are able to silence the noise and reflect at the same time, it actually allows your inner world to breathe. It allows that part of you to feel settled. You don't necessarily have to be at mixed crowd every now and then. You can as well find a place, maybe in your house, in your workplace, or maybe at night or in the morning when you want to sleep. Find a spot where you can just sit down and listen to yourself breathe. You'll be so surprised that there are so many things that would come to you, positively or negatively. Negatively, you'll be able to acknowledge some things you carry within you that is not necessary for you to become better. And positively, you'll be able to unravel some steps you can actually take to start becoming a better version of you. And secondly, write your emotions to God or the universe. And this is one thing I don't always joke with. Whenever I'm feeling sad, whenever I pray, on sujood, I would always say, Ya Allah, I don't even understand the way I'm feeling, but please help me clarify this. I have prayed so many times. There was a time I was grateful I have the job I have, and there was also at the same time I was thinking I should be earning more than this. And also, at the same time, I was thinking I should leave the school teaching job because I think I am spending a lot of time doing this. And I remember vividly there was a time I was grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving me this job. And at the same time, I was also thinking that am I even being grateful enough? And when I went on prayer, I was saying to Allah, please grant me contentment of the heart. Let me be satisfied with what you have given me, believing and expecting that you will do better because you have actually helped me to get to where I am now. So, where I'm going next, you know. And because you know, grant me that contentment to be able to feel relaxed, that you know where I'm going, even when I feel unsure and uncertain. And what actually happened is that after a day or two, I always feel relaxed. So sometimes that anchor you are looking for within someone can actually come within you when you allow yourself to anchor yourself spiritually. When you allow yourself to move closer to the divine being spiritually, when you allow yourself to actually listen to yourself speak and expect and believe that the whole of what you are going through is actually transcribed to you because the divine being wants you to feel at that point. So, what is there you are feeling that you can't communicate with him? And thirdly, you need to practice surrender. One thing I always hold on to that I keep battling with is holding on too tight to things, and those things are actually affecting me. Surrendering is when you are able to let go of the things that you just feel so intense on. That is because when you surrender, it gives you inner peace. When you surrender, you allow your body, your mind, and your soul to acknowledge the fact that you are only trying. The only thing that would make the whole of this come to success is by His mercy, by His willingness, and because it is the time for you to attain that part of your life. Sometimes we hold on too tight, we hold on too clingy to something, and we realize that it is not even the time for our life to experience that part we are looking for. You must have wondered that there are some decisions you thought you would have taken 5 years ago. But when you look and realize that if you had taken those decisions 5 years ago, you won't be where you are today. And what happened 5 years ago actually led you to where you are now. So we need to be able to acknowledge and surrender that the all of these things we are building is not in our power, it's not in our might. It is based on the divine intervention and the timing for individuality in this life. And also, you need to find a personal scripture or affirmation. And there is a way I always say this when it comes to building the life you're intentional about. And as a single mother of two that have walked through the journey for like 3 or 4 years of my life have been so intense. And there are certain things I have built during the time. There was a time, or presently, there are activities I do on monthly basis, on weekly basis during Jumu'ah period. Also on Sundays, there are some things I practice that is actually helping. And at the same time, I figure that there are some things you can say to yourself that would keep you grounded. Maybe Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil. Allah is sufficient for me. Or maybe, oh Allah, please grant me contentment of the heart. Oh Allah, ya Giyasal Mustagisina Hagisini. You are indeed the helper. Please help me in every single thing. And a lot of things and actually be a kind of affirmation you keep saying, just to be able to keep your mind relaxed that the all of these things you're pursuing is by the power of the supernatural being. And also engage in grounding practices. What do you want to do every now and then whenever you feel intense, or whenever you feel there is no hope for you, or whenever you think that what you want to achieve is not actually possible? It might be nawafil, it might be deep breathing, it might be walking, it might be reading some verses of the Quran, it might be getting to check all the things you are grateful for, it might be looking into the eyes of your children. You might as well be sleeping for like 1 or 2 hours. Maybe it is your brain that feels clogged at the same time because a lot of things can actually create fear within us. And it might just be as simple as not having enough good sleep. And also, you need to keep getting aligned with your purpose. Sometimes, when we don't have hope, we don't have faith, it might just be as a result of the hope we have, the purpose we have, rather, we don't feel aligned with it. Maybe we have a particular picture and we are actually treading on a different path entirely. So, you might be you asking yourself, what season of life am I in? And what is this season teaching me? When I left my marriage, then I would ask myself, where is this taking me? And sometimes you don't even ask the right questions. You end up asking the wrong questions at the right time, and you end up asking the right questions at the wrong time. But at the end of the day, all of these questions are actually meant for you to have a deeper thought about where you are in life. So you need to understand that when you begin practicing the whole of this, it actually changes pain into growth. And at the same time, when you begin to build a spiritual anchoring, sometimes you feel that there are still some ways you are lacking, you are not actually still not understanding the whole of the concept. And there are actually solutions I have been able to induce. Because sometimes when we think we are building the spiritual anchoring, at some point in time we fall short or we lack or we get some things wrongly or we don't actually find sanctuary. There are some things you can actually do. And the first one is to reconnect with yourself. Sometimes we might feel disconnected from ourselves. Sometimes we lose ourselves in a manner that we don't speak to ourselves, we don't sit with ourselves anymore. Or during the course of the whole journey, we have not been able to sit with our emotions, to journal our truth, or we keep pretending that we are being strong all the time, or we don't acknowledge what we are feeling, or we don't seem to get to put ourselves to come to terms with. We keep pretending that everything is fine. So sometimes when you feel that the whole of the anchoring is not actually helping you, you need to sit down and reconnect with yourself by sitting with your emotions, journaling your truth, and stop lying and pretending to yourself that you are strong and you have everything figured out. And the second thing you can do that when you feel that you are slipping out of your spiritual anchoring is to rebuild your relationship with God or with whatever it is you believe in. As Fulawat to relay, when it comes to God, I mean Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I know that we might have multiple religious people watching this video. So whatever you believe in, and that is because sometimes when you don't reconnect with the truth that has created you to this world, we feel disconnected, and people are not actually challenged. People are nonchalant about that aspect. One of the reasons why some of us are not living the life we actually want is because we don't acknowledge the presence of the supernatural being. And that is really affecting the kind of life we are having. So you need to reintroduce some small practices again. You need to read some verses that will take you back to your creator, or you even need to talk to God like your friend. I remember whenever things happen to me that I don't expect or I'm not happy about, I will say, Ya Allah, you know better than me. Please help me understand this. It is the way you talk to your creator like he is there with you. And of course, he is even closer to you than you jugular vein. So what is now the stress? He is closer and dearer to you if you actually acknowledge his presence. So when you feel you are slipping out, try to rebuild your relationship with your God and strengthen your inner hope. You see, that goals you have for yourself. Maybe you need to break it down into smaller steps. Maybe you need to celebrate those tiny ones. Maybe you need to replace the notion that you can't. So let me try if this thing is going to work again. Maybe you just need to be able to keep yourself grounded with that meaning, that picture you actually have for yourself. And at the same time, one thing I always say to myself is that your environment can be a box. So you need to build a supportive environment. You need to be around people that would uplift you, people that would actually make you keep remembering that whatever you are going through is just a life phase and you will definitely come out of it even better and stronger. And then redefine your life story. Every single thing that has happened to you is actually happening for a reason. Even when you feel disconnected to your creator, there might actually be a reason why that has happened as well. Maybe there is a part of you are not paying attention to. Maybe there is something you should be looking into which you have not. Or maybe there is actually a part of you that is yearning to acknowledge some of the things you don't even think are happening in your life. So, all you need to understand is that hope grows where the story you tell yourself changes. And that life you are actually looking for is actually possible when you anchor yourself spiritually. Spirituality is just for you to acknowledge the fact that you are not the one controlling everything that is happening to you. There is a supernatural being that is definitely in charge of controlling every single affair that is happening in our lives. And if this is something you are actually intentional about, subscribe to the channel. And also, I have a thriving Telegram community where I put women like you and I together to become a better version of ourselves. And I'm going to be seeing you in my next one. Bye.